I stared at the manila envelope in my hands, my heart pounding against my ribs like a trapped bird. The official court seal glared back at me, mocking my confusion. When Eliza, my best friend's sister, had handed me these papers with a nervous smile and walked away without explanation, I never imagined what I'd find inside. Now, as I read the words, "marriage contract," at the top of the page and saw the signature line with my name printed neatly below it, I couldn't breathe. Was this some elaborate prank? Or had the quiet girl who'd always lingered in the background of my life just proposed to me in the most bizarre way possible? If you've ever had your life turned upside down in a single moment, hit that like button. And if you want to find out how this crazy situation ends, subscribe now because this story is about to take you on an emotional roller coaster you won't believe. I met Ryan Thompson when we were both awkward 14-year-olds with braces and unrealistic dreams. We bonded over our shared love of obscure indie bands and terrible sci-fi movies that everyone else thought were boring. By college, we were inseparable, the kind of friends who could finish each other's sentences and communicate entire conversations with just a look. Ryan's family became my second home. His parents treated me like another son, especially after my own parents divorced and moved to opposite coasts, leaving me emotionally adrift in the middle. I spent countless holidays and Sunday dinners with the Thompsons, soaking in the warmth of their family dynamics that I desperately missed in my own life. And then there was Eliza, Ryan's younger sister by 3 years. Where Ryan was outgoing and effortlessly charismatic, Eliza was thoughtful and reserved. She had this way of observing everything, those intelligent hazel eyes taking in the world with quiet intensity. While Ryan and I were loud and often ridiculous, Eliza moved through life with purpose and grace. I'd be lying if I said I never noticed her. How could I not? But she was my best friend's little sister, firmly in the category of people you don't even think about that way. Besides, she barely seemed to register my existence beyond polite hellos when I came over. At least, that's what I thought. The day that changed everything was unremarkable in every other way. It was a crisp autumn afternoon, the kind where the air smells like possibilities and dying leaves. I was helping Ryan move into his new apartment across town, having just finished carrying up the last of his ridiculously heavy furniture. "Dude, what do you have in these boxes? Concrete?" I complained, collapsing onto his unmade bed. Ryan laughed, tossing me a beer from the mini fridge we just plugged in. "Stop whining, Jackson. This is why you should hit the gym with me sometimes." I flipped him off affectionately and cracked open the beer. Some of us have actual jobs that require brain cells, not just looking pretty for Instagram. "Speaking of jobs," Ryan said, suddenly serious. "I got the offer." I sat up straight. "Seattle? You got it?" His face split into a wide grin. "Starting next month. Senior software engineer, just like I wanted." I felt a complicated mix of emotions, genuine happiness for my friend and a selfish sadness for myself. Ryan had been chasing this opportunity for months, a dream position at one of the biggest tech companies in the country. It was everything he'd worked for, but it also meant he'd be moving across the country, away from our hometown of Philadelphia. "That's amazing, man. Really?" I meant it, despite the hollow feeling in my chest. "There's a housewarming party at my parents' place tonight," Ryan said. "Mom insisted." "You're coming, right?" "Wouldn't miss it, I promised." I arrived at the Thompson house that evening with a bottle of Ryan's favorite whiskey and a bittersweet feeling I couldn't shake. The modest 2-story colonial was lit up warm against the darkening sky, and I could hear laughter spilling from the open windows. It felt like coming home, which only made Ryan's impending departure sting more. Mrs. Thompson enveloped me in a hug the moment I stepped through the door. "Jackson. There you are. Come in, come in. Everyone's in the backyard." The Thompsons' backyard was transformed with string lights and a makeshift bar. About 20 people milled around, most of whom I recognized as family friends and relatives. Ryan was holding court by the grill, gesturing wildly as he told some story that had everyone laughing. I grabbed a drink and was about to head his way when someone touched my elbow. I turned to find Eliza standing there, looking different somehow. Maybe it was the soft lighting, or maybe it was the fact that I hadn't seen her in nearly 6 months since she'd been away at graduate school. "Hey, stranger," she said with a small smile. "Eliza. I didn't know you'd be here." I gave her an awkward half-hug, suddenly conscious of how good she smelled, like vanilla and something uniquely her. I wouldn't miss my brother's big send-off. There was something in her voice I couldn't quite place. "How have you been, Jackson?" We fell into conversation easily, more easily than we ever had before. I learned she'd finished her master's in environmental law and was starting at a firm in Philadelphia next month. She asked about my work as an architectural designer, seeming genuinely interested in the restoration project I was passionate about. As the night wore on, I found myself gravitating back to Eliza whenever we got separated. There was something different about her, or maybe something different about the way I was seeing her. She wasn't just Ryan's quiet little sister anymore. She was brilliant and funny in her own subtle way, with opinions about everything from climate policy to which Beatles album was truly the best. "You know," she said as we sat on the porch steps, escaping the noise of the party for a moment, "I had the biggest crush on you when I was 16. I nearly choked on my drink." "What? No way." She laughed, the sound light and musical. "Oh yes. It was mortifying. I used to find excuses to be in the living room whenever you came over." "I had no idea," I admitted, feeling strangely flustered. "That was the point," she said, looking at me with those perceptive eyes. "You were Ryan's cool friend. You never saw me." Something in her words made my heart skip. "I see you now," I said quietly. The moment hung between us, charged with possibility. Then Ryan's voice called from inside, breaking the spell. "There you two are. Mom's bringing out the cake." The rest of the evening passed in a blur. I kept finding my gaze drawn to Eliza across the room, wondering how I'd missed so much about her all these years. When it was time to leave, she walked me to my car. "It was really good to see you, Jackson," she said. "You too. Maybe we could grab coffee sometime? Since you'll be in Philly and Ryan's leaving us both behind." Her smile was worth the nervousness I felt asking. "I'd like that." I drove home that night with my mind full of Eliza Thompson, wondering if I was crazy for suddenly seeing my best friend's sister in this new light. Coffee turned into dinner. Dinner turned into weekend hikes and long conversations that stretched into the early hours of the morning. With Ryan gone, there was no buffer between us, no reason to pretend we were just friendly acquaintances. 3 months after that housewarming party, I was completely, irrevocably falling for Eliza. But I hadn't told Ryan. Neither of us had. It wasn't that we thought he'd disapprove. Ryan wasn't the overprotective type. It was more that this thing between us felt fragile and precious, something we wanted to nurture in private before exposing it to the world. "We should tell him," I said one night as we lay on my couch watching a documentary about deep-sea creatures that only Eliza would find fascinating. She tensed slightly against me. "I know. It's just..." "What?" She sat up, tucking her legs underneath her. "What if this doesn't work out? Then it would be weird for both of you." "Is that what you're worried about? That this won't work out?" I asked, suddenly concerned. "No," she said quickly. "That's not what I meant. I've watched you and Ryan for years. You're like brothers. I don't want to be the reason anything changes between you." I took her hand, threading our fingers together. "Some changes are good, Eliza. And Ryan loves us both. He'll be happy for us." She nodded, but I could tell she wasn't entirely convinced. "Let's tell him when he comes home for Christmas," she suggested. "In person." I agreed, and we settled back into our comfortable silence, but something had shifted. A tiny seed of doubt had been planted, and I couldn't help wondering if Eliza was holding back for reasons she wasn't sharing. The next few weeks were busy for both of us. Eliza was drowning in work at her new firm, often staying late into the night. My restoration project was approaching a critical deadline, consuming all my waking hours. We saw each other when we could, but the easy rhythm we'd established seemed disrupted. Then came the day that would change everything. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I was at the office, buried in blueprints, when my phone buzzed with a text from Eliza. Asterisk, can you meet me at Rittenhouse Square at 5? Need to talk, asterisk. The message sent a chill through me. Those 4 words, need to talk, never preceded anything good. I texted back immediately. Everything okay? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then appeared again. Asterisk, just meet me. Please, asterisk. I spent the rest of the afternoon distracted, imagining worst-case scenarios. Was she ending things? Had she met someone else? Was she moving away like Ryan had? By the time I reached the park, my nerves were shot. I spotted her immediately, sitting on a bench near the fountain, her dark hair blowing slightly in the breeze. She didn't see me approach, too focused on the manila envelope she was turning over and over in her hands. Eliza? She looked up, startled, and I was alarmed to see her eyes were red-rimmed, as if she'd been crying. Jackson. You came. She said it like she'd been uncertain I would. Of course I came. What's going on? You're scaring me. She stood, clutching the envelope to her chest like a shield. I need you to take this, she said, holding it out. And I need you not to open it until you get home. What? Why? What is it? Please, she whispered. Just trust me. I took the envelope, confused and increasingly worried. Eliza, whatever's going on, we can talk about it. Just tell me. I can't. Not right now. She stepped back. Read what's in the envelope. Then call me if you want to. Before I could respond, she turned and walked quickly away, leaving me standing there holding the mysterious envelope, completely baffled. I respected her wishes, though it nearly killed me not to tear open the envelope right there in the park. The drive home was the longest 20 minutes of my life. When I finally closed my apartment door behind me, I ripped open the seal with shaking hands. Inside was a stack of official-looking papers. The first page had a header that read, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and below it, in bold letters, Marriage Contract. My mind went blank with shock. I flipped through the pages, trying to make sense of the legal jargon. There were sections about property rights, financial obligations, and at the end, 2 signature lines. One was already signed with Eliza's neat handwriting. The other had my name printed beneath it, waiting for my signature. This had to be a joke. Some elaborate prank that I wasn't getting. But the papers looked real, too real, with official seals and notary stamps. With trembling fingers, I called Eliza. She answered on the first ring, her voice small. Did you read it? Is this real? I demanded. Because if it's a joke, I don't get it. It's not a joke, she said quietly. Then what the hell, Eliza? We've been dating for 3 months and you're giving me marriage papers? Not even a proposal, just legal documents? There was a long pause. Can I come over? I can explain everything. 20 excruciating minutes later, there was a knock at my door. Eliza stood in the hallway looking smaller than I'd ever seen her, her usual confidence replaced by a vulnerability that made my anger falter. Come in, I said, stepping aside. She perched on the edge of my couch, hands clasped tightly in her lap. I sat across from her, the marriage contract on the coffee table between us like a bomb waiting to detonate. I'm sorry, she began. I know this isn't normal. I know it's not how things are supposed to go. Then why? I asked. Why not just talk to me? She took a deep breath. Do you remember Mrs. Abernathy from my parents' neighborhood? The older woman with all the cats? The question was so unexpected that I just blinked at her. Vaguely? What does she have to do with this? She died last month, Eliza said. She was my client, actually. I helped her with her will. She paused, seeming to gather her thoughts. Mrs. Abernathy never had children. Her closest relative was a nephew she hadn't spoken to in 20 years. But she had this beautiful Victorian house that had been in her family for generations, and she was determined it shouldn't go to her nephew, who wanted to sell it to developers. I was completely lost. Eliza, what does any of this have to do with you giving me marriage papers? She left the house to me, Eliza said. With conditions. Understanding began to dawn, a cold realization spreading through my chest. What kind of conditions? The house can only pass to me if I'm married by my 27th birthday. Otherwise, it goes to the nephew. She looked at me with pleading eyes. My birthday is next week, Jackson. I stood up, needing to move, to process this bombshell. So this, us, was all about a house? You've been dating me because you needed a husband to fulfill the terms of a will? No. Eliza jumped to her feet. God, no. That's not it at all. Then explain it to me, because from where I'm standing, it looks like I've been played. Tears welled in her eyes. I've been in love with you since I was 16 years old, Jackson. That wasn't a cute story I made up at Ryan's party. It was the truth. I watched you for years, your kindness, your passion, the way you light up when you talk about architecture. I loved you from afar for so long that I convinced myself it would never happen. She wiped at her eyes. And then it did happen. After Ryan left, when we started spending time together, it was like a dream coming true. I was falling even deeper for you every day. But you didn't tell me about the house, I said, still trying to make sense of it all. Because I didn't want it to be about the house, she cried. I wanted it to be about us. Just us. I was going to let the house go, Jackson. I had decided that our relationship was more important than any inheritance. Then why the marriage contract now? She sank back onto the couch. My boss found out about the situation. He knows Mrs. Abernathy's nephew, they play golf together or something. He told me I was crazy to let a historic property like that go to someone who would just tear it down. She looked up at me, her expression pained. And then he mentioned that you were an architectural designer specializing in historical restoration. The pieces clicked into place. He suggested you marry me to save the house. She nodded miserably. He said it was perfect, I was already dating you, and you'd appreciate the house's value. He made it sound so logical, so simple. There's nothing simple about marriage, Eliza. I know that, she said. Why do you think I've been so stressed these past weeks? I've been torn apart trying to figure out what to do. I don't want to lose you, but I also don't want to see that beautiful house destroyed. I sat back down, trying to process everything. Why didn't you just talk to me about this? Why the cloak and dagger routine with the envelope? Because I was ashamed, she admitted. I was afraid you'd think exactly what you're thinking now, that I've been using you. And I was afraid that if I asked you directly, you might say yes out of obligation or pity, not because you wanted to. She gestured to the papers. This way, you could look at everything, understand what was being asked, and make a decision without me standing there pressuring you. We sat in silence for a long moment, the weight of her revelation hanging between us. Tell me about the house, I finally said. She looked up, surprised. What? The house. Mrs.